infinite experience counters, infinite ETBs, infinite death triggers, and infinite damage. Today we're brewing Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. Hello everybody, welcome to Nerd Lab. My name is Brian and we just got back from Command Fest Atlanta where we had such an amazing time. But while I was there, I won the new Modern Horizons 3 Eldrazi Precon. And in that deck is Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. And it looked too fun, too amazing to not build and bring to this channel. But don't forget, we still have the Dominator Remastered 2K giveaway, still an amazing set and an amazing product. All you got to do to enter and win is like, subscribe, and put nerd, N-E-R-D nerd, into the comments down below. But without further ado, let's get into the deck tech. Azlask, the Swelling Scourge is a 3-mana 2/2 Eldrazi creature that says whenever Azlask, the Swelling Scourge, or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Also for Wooburg, creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Scion and spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. So right off the bat, the big benefit of having a 3-mana low-to-the-ground Eldrazi commander is huge. This means you can cast him whenever you want. It's nice to get him out early so we can start getting those experience counters, but they're not really hard to come by later on, so you can wait until your board is set up a little bit. And the best part is, if people remove them, with those Scions and Spawns sacking for 1 colorless mana, it's really easy to recast them. The main reason we want to use Azlask is for that top ability, because in this deck we're going to be creating tons of Scions and Spawns and sacrificing them for max value. We're getting card draw, we're getting mana, and all the while we're racking up those experience counters. Nice! But when all is said and done, that Wooburg ability is still a really nice finisher. What's really weird about this deck though is it's a colorless deck and a Wooburg deck. So we have to mana fix to get both the colorless mana and the Wooburg mana. So let's get into some RAM. This is the perfect deck for the talismans. Conviction, creativity, curiosity, dominance, hierarchy, impulse, indulge, progress, resilience, and unity. Not only do they mana fix you, but they tap for the colorless mana symbol, and we need both. You'll also notice that they're all colorless spells, and in this deck that matters. In fact, the only green ramp spell we kept was Birds of Paradise. And Birds is nice because not only does it mana fix us, but it lets us cast our commander on turn 2. And if we don't want to cast our commander, we have 11 other 3 CMC spells to cast. So it's really great for our mana curve. But our favorite way to ramp in this deck are from cards like Dread Drone. Anything that makes colorless Eldrazi spawns or Eldrazi Scions is really what we're looking for. Because it's an ETB trigger, it's a triggered ability, and it creates tokens, it doesn't put them into the battlefield, we're really going to be able to take advantage of these cards. And best of all, because you can sack these creatures and create mana as soon as they hit the battlefield, you're really able to just pop off, cast a bunch of spells once you get your engine going. But speaking of card draw, let's draw some cards. Let's start with our first card draw card that is an Eldrazi, Smothering Abomination. Oh no. With Smothering Abomination, every time you sacrifice one of those Scions, one of those Spawns, you get to draw a card. Surprisingly, this is actually one of our worst card draw engines, because one, it has 2 colored mana pips in it with those 2 black mana pips. And I really try to avoid having 2 pips in any of the cards in this deck, but this is one of the ones that made it through. Because it's an Eldrazi, it's on flavor, it's on point. But the worst part about it is that you have to draw the card, and later on in the game, that could kill us, so we really want to be able to get rid of it later on. A similar but strictly better card is Species Specialist. It's whenever a creature dies, so you don't even have to sacrifice it, and also it's you may draw a card. Another fun card that I put in here is Fecundity. What'd you call me? It's a little risky because everyone gets this ability, but I'm going to bet that we're going to be able to utilize these death triggers or creature cards going into the graveyard, which tokens do trigger. We're going to be able to get this off a bunch more than anyone else on the battlefield. So Fecundity's fun, 3 CMC, and only the 1 mana pip. And it's a May.
Heck yeah, it is.
Mystic Forge isn't technically card draw, but there's enough colorless spells in this deck for this thing to do some work. Last but not least is Skull Clamp. Not only do we want to be able to draw 2 cards off of every Scion and Spawn we get, but we also want the death triggers.
That's what I call a win-win.
Well, that's our card draw, that's our ramp, but now it's time for some synergy. For this deck to work, we need lots of Scions and Spawns. A great card that does that for us is Glaring Fleshraker. Every time we cast a Mana Rock, every time we cast an Eldrazi that's devoid, we're getting a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn. So if you have Anointed Procession or Parallel Lives, because it creates is going to double those. But also if you have Echoes of Eternity or Roaming Throne, you're also going to double those. And doubling these triggers is how we're going to get into these infinite loops. And cards like Dread Drone and Drowner of Hope will also benefit. But the nice thing about those two is they're ETB triggers. So if you get out the classic Eldrazi Displacer, for 3 mana you're able to keep bouncing them. So if you have any of those doubling triggers, that goes infinite. Parallel Lives, Dread Drone, Eldrazi Displacer. You bounce it, you get 4, sack 3, get the 3 experience counters, flicker it, get 4 more, sack 3, flicker it, get 4 more. Infinite mana, infinite creatures, and infinite experience counters. Boom! Roasted! You can also put something like Pitiless Plunderer out there, and that's another way to get infinite treasures within that loop. But how do we win with all this infinite mana and infinite treasures, infinite creatures? Well, that brings us to our win con. As much as I don't like having a halfling in a world of Eldrazi, we gotta put in Rosy Cotton. With all these creatures coming in, they're all tokens, you're gonna make this army huge. You can put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on anything you want. But the main thing you want to put it on is a Basking Brood Scale.
Oh yeah!
So you create the token, put the +1/+1 counter on Basking Brood Scale, which makes a token, which gets the counter, which makes the token, which gets the counter, and you keep going on and on. And if you have Glaring Fleshraker out, you're going to ping the table for 1 every time that happens. But if you want to win through combat, cast something like Othari, Sun's Glory. You get 1 billion of these Scions out, and you're going to sacrifice all of them, getting 1 billion experience counters, and then when you cast, and since it has haste, you can attack right away and make 1 billion 2/2 red rebel creature tokens tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have. But I also added Phyrexian Altar if we want to abuse the last Wooburg ability on Azlask, and you just want to pump all your creatures +X, X equaling 1 billion. Then you can swing in for the win. Honestly, there's so many ways to win in this deck, and there's so many ways to customize this deck. If you want to make it experience counters matter, stuff like Azuri, you can do that. If you want to make it to where you're just utilizing all the Eldrazi spawns to cast bigger, scary Eldrazi, you can do that. There's tons of ways to build Azlask, but this is how I built them. I got a link to my mocks filled in the description down below. And hey, hit me up in the comments if you think there's a better card I should put in here. There's easy ways to really upgrade this. I put a bunch of cards in my considering pile so you can kind of mix and match and make your own version of it. But let me know what you did, what changes you made, and how it went for you. But this is what I cooked up in the lab. This is how I built Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Until next time, thanks for watching and embrace the chaos.